Welcome back to the Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's live daily news and talk show. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside Diane Chabon. One of our favorite things to talk about is our athletes here in West Bloomfield Township. So prolific in so many different sports, from West Bloomfield High School, from Orchard Lake St. Mary's, and other institutions all throughout our local area. But mostly on the gridiron, we're seeing a lot of news of late. And joining us now to talk about the latest news from West Bloomfield alum and athletes alike is Matt Catoni from our team, one of our sports reporters here on the Splash Live. Matt, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yep. Thank you for having me, Tyler. Great to be here. Going to kick things off with former Laker legend and D2 Player of the Year, Matthew Judon with the Patriots. He's currently seeking a new contract with the Patriots. He's about to enter his third season. He's been great there so far. He's had 28 sacks on over 120 tackles through his 2 seasons there. He's likely to get a new deal there. And then switching over to college football in Michigan, there's Donovan Edwards, who's recovering tremendously after injuring both his patella and hand, both at some point during last season. He's looking at splitting carries 50-50 with Blake Corum, where they will both likely end up in the NFL next season, with Edwards likely being a top 3 to top 5 running back in his draft class. And keeping it with the Wolverines, there's Tom Doman, punter from Orchard Lake St. Mary and former top-ranked punter in the state. He will be stepping into Brad Robbins' shoes as punter this year for Michigan, and he will have big shoes to fill, but Harbaugh seems to be confident in him, as he stated just this past week. We haven't seen a leg like this since I've been here at Michigan. And switching over to West Bloomfield Lakers currently, there's Jameer Benjamin, who graduates this upcoming season. He's a 10th-ranked player in the state. He had originally committed to Stanford, then Northwestern, but following what's been going on there, he has now flipped to UCLA, and he noted that big reason for him committing to UCLA was the academics and them joining the Big Ten, which will benefit him to an extent with his family being able to visit and see him at away games. Then, of course, there's Brandon Davis-Swain, who's the 7th-ranked player in the state. He just recently decommitted from Notre Dame last December, but he is now currently committed to Colorado after drawing interest from several Big Ten schools, including Michigan, which is still a school to watch with plenty of West Bloomfield Lakers there as well.
Yeah, and a big thing at the University of Michigan that certainly helped them in recent years is having former head coach Ron Bellamy as their wide receivers coach there, Matt. But let's go back to Matthew Judon, who was with the New England Patriots. He's a guy that's got a really interesting story out of West Bloomfield. He's one of the best D linemen West Bloomfield has ever seen, one of the best overall players we've ever had at West Bloomfield, but was kind of in a position that was odd at the time, because West Bloomfield wasn't always where it's at right now. They weren't always one of the top teams in the state, getting a lot of eyes on them. And so a talent like him, like you said, slipped through the cracks, ended up playing D2, still made it to the NFL, and now he's seeking a new contract. So where is he at with the New England Patriots at this time in terms of getting that contract negotiated? And what is he really, from what you've seen, what you have read, what is he looking for from the New England Patriots contract-wise?
Well, the Patriots tend to keep their negotiations relatively close to them, but from what I've seen, that Matthew Judon is looking to be compensated as he's played, which is, of course, is one of the top edge defenders in all of football. And it's interesting to see whether or not the Patriots will give him that money, but from what I've seen so far, it looks like he will likely end up signing a new deal with the Patriots.
Yeah, loyalty has been something that Matt Judon has been valuing across his football career, staying very close to the West Bloomfield Lakers program after he graduated, while he was at Grand Valley State, and also while he's been in the NFL, both with the Baltimore Ravens and now more recently with the New England Patriots. And in terms of his loyalty to these teams, I mean, that goes all the way back to his high school days as he was being recruited. And really, he had opportunities to play at the D1 level, but he knew he was going to get playing time at the D2 level. It came down to Wayne State, and it came down to Grand Valley State. And he stuck with those programs even after getting that success. We see nowadays a lot of these D2 players, or 1AA players, that get that success, they get into the transfer portal, they move into Division I to better position themselves for the draft. And certainly the New England Patriots do enjoy having players that want to be a Patriot for life and want to be in that environment. And we know he's a really good defensive lineman. We've known that for a number of years. The only D lineman, the only player at West Bloomfield to ever have their football jersey number retired 99 in the rafters, really all over by the scoreboard at the Swamp at West Bloomfield High School. So check that out the next time you're over at the Swamp. In terms of Donovan Edwards, we know he injured his hand. You mentioned that he's going to be back and he's healthy, and he's saying that he's feeling very good, and there's high praise, of course, from the Michigan football staff in that regard. But what are we expecting from Michigan this year with Donovan Edwards, especially considering, like you said, he's coming back, he's going to be playing alongside Blake Corum, who, for better or for worse, last season with his injury was also a Heisman candidate, a Heisman hopeful near the end of the season. How is that dynamic, you think, going to work?
I think it's going to work tremendously. They're both obviously great backs. I think Edwards is the more talented of the two, but it seems like Michigan is determined to keep both of them healthy, so they're going to try and split carries to them to where they can both be there full 100% at the end of the season, and hopefully both perform tremendously against Ohio State like Donovan did last season.
Yeah, and I think that this also opens up Michigan's offense to use Donovan Edwards in a more versatile role as well. Look, he's a smaller guy in terms of wide receivers at the collegiate level or at the pro level, but his ball skills, his ability to catch the football, to run routes is excellent, and he could play pretty much every skill position on the field in all three phases. So maybe perhaps this sets up a situation where you have Corum and Edwards on the field more often during the college football season, with Corum being a ball-dominant running back, but Donovan Edwards being a guy that you can have in an option offense. You can shift out into and motion him out into a receiver position, put him in the slot, and he can also be an impact player in that sort.
Yeah, scouts are very high on Edwards' receiving ability, and that's likely something that Harbaugh will put on display this season.
Yeah, especially with the Michigan Wolverines competing again, hopefully to go 3 for 3 with Big Ten championships. But even beyond that, get into the college football playoff for the third straight year and win a bowl game, something that has been really the only demerit you can really put against Jim Harbaugh in his tenure at the University of Michigan is his bowl performance, 2-7 overall. And if they are to lose another bowl game this year, he would be tied for the worst coaching record in bowl games, with 2-8 overall would be the record at that point in time. Tom Doman from Orchard Lake St. Mary's also going to have a much bigger role with the University of Michigan this year. Just how big of a step is he taking now, taking over for Robbins as the punter?
Well, like I said before, Harbaugh stated that we haven't seen a leg like this since I've been here at Michigan, and they've obviously had their fair share of kicking talent, with Quinn Nordine being with the Patriots, Jake Moody getting drafted by the 49ers this year, and then Robbins also going to the NFL. He seems to be very high on Tommy Doman, and it'll be interesting to see because, of course, field position is something that Harbaugh has often spoke about, and a facet of the game that he takes seriously is special teams.
Yeah, and then we move on to the players still on the West Bloomfield Lakers, back to West Bloomfield High School. Brandon Davis-Swain, one of the most highly recruited D linemen in the country, had originally committed to Notre Dame, but was still in hot pursuit even after committing to one of the biggest football programs, one of the most illustrious football programs in the country. Ultimately has ended up on the rolls for Coach Prime at Colorado. And that's also an interesting situation because that's a growing program that's growing rapidly. They're going to be exiting their conference and changing things up, trying to be even more competitive after this season, it looks like. And so Brendan Davis-Swain is going into a really up-and-coming situation and has a chance to be a huge impact player after he's going to be this year for the West Bloomfield Lakers, but at the next level too.
Yep. And I know that his recruitment is still open to an extent because he recently visited Michigan again this past month. So it should be interesting to see how things develop with him, whether or not he ends up at West Bloom or at Michigan with his fellow Lakers, or if he ends up in Colorado with Coach Prime.
Yeah, that's really the nature of college football recruiting today, and with the transfer portal also, after you've gotten into college and played at these programs, it is more open than it has been before. And years ago, someone recommitting after they've committed to a school, decommitting and going to another program would be shocking. It would actually in some ways be considered a demerit against that player's character, that player's loyalty to a team, and would be something that would be put into question as other teams are trying to recruit these players today. That more par for the course, and certainly something that played into Jameer Benjamin's situation as he transferred from, he decommitted from Stanford, went and committed to Northwestern, affirmed that commitment, then ended up decommitting from Northwestern on Sunday and ultimately committing on Monday morning to UCLA. Tell us about that situation, because that's a unique situation even in this landscape.
Yeah, similar to Brandon Davis Swain in Michigan, relationship with the coaching staff I saw played a huge role in that. He said when he visited UCLA that he vibed tremendously with the UCLA coaching staff and that everything there just seemed right and that he loved the campus, he loved the academics. And again, like I said, the relationship with the coaching staff just was a big reason why he committed there, and everything just seemed right. And that's why he ended up committing to UCLA.
Yeah, and a big season ahead for Jameer Benjamin as well, really going to be the anchor of that secondary for the West Bloomfield Lakers this season. They have a strong defense coming back this year. It's going to be an interesting season for them. That kicks off just 3 weeks from tomorrow at the Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic at Tom Adams Field on the campus of Wayne State University. A 7 o'clock game on a Thursday night. The first 2 games for these Lakers are on Thursday nights with the Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic. The next week is a pre-Labor Day game that usually kicks those games back a day against Birmingham Groves. And for the Lakers this season, Matt, you and I are going to be at OAA Media Day on Friday. The OAA, again, a very strong conference, one that all eyes are going to be on in southeastern Michigan. As you think about the winner of the OAA Red Division is going to be a big-time competitor at the statewide level alongside some of those regular powerhouses like Cass Tech, who West Bloomfield lost to in the first round of the playoffs last year. So let's take a look at the OAA briefly before we go to a break. And what sort of is the outlook as we head into this season with a change in leadership at West Bloomfield High School, but with all these other teams like Adams and so on still being very competitive in this OAA Red Division?
Yeah, the OAA was incredibly competitive last year. As you know, I was there for some of the games as well, with Adams beating West Bloomfield's only loss last year, I believe, in the conference. And it's certainly going to be interesting, like you said, with shakeups at West Bloomfield, but I believe that they'll be very well or able to compete in the conference once again with their defense leading the way. It should definitely be interesting, though, with there being a 3-way tie last year in the standings and it ultimately coming down to tiebreakers for who would take the conference title. But I certainly expect West Bloomfield to be well in the picture again this year.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year for West Bloomfield, too. A lot of competitive games, but only 3 times they're truly going to be the home team this year, playing at home against Stony Creek, against Rochester Adams, and their penultimate regular season game against Southfield A&T, all going to be at home, but they got a tough road schedule, too. Playing against Chippewa Valley in week 1, a big test for them, much like playing against Stevenson last year was, and then they're going on the road to Lake Orion, never an easy environment. Certainly going on the road to Clarkston for that rivalry game, never going to be easy. And Oxford also, I always refer to that as the Big Blue Trap game because they got a great environment. They're always a very well-coached team, and any given year, Oxford can be a team that really competes in this division and can be the team that makes or breaks your season. So very interesting season ahead in OAA football, certainly for West Bloomfield football. Plenty of more news going to be made from West Bloomfield athletes present and alums going forward. Matt, thank you so much for the update.
Yep. Thank you for having me, and have a good day, Tyler.
We'll see you very soon. Matt Catoni with us, our sports reporter on the Splash Live, giving us the latest update on West Bloomfield athletes making news today at the high school level and at the college level and beyond.